All right.
I sure hope some people show up.
Looks like we've already got about 3.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. All right, we'll let a couple more people trickle in and then we can get started.
I feel like I should have walk-up music playing or something.
We could have done that.
We can fill the chat window with ideas for theme music for revenue first marketing. Like
Yes.
what would
What
be a
would be a good
great
theme
intros?
song for
Hmm.
this? I like that idea. I'm loving this chat activity.
I'm Gen X for those that are offering song ideas, so please be generationally appropriate.
Rocky theme song. I like that.
The
I like
Rocky theme
that
song?
idea.
Oh,
The Rocky
that
theme
is a
song.
classic
That's a really
right
good
there.
one.
Hmm.
I feel like you can't go wrong with that.
We could upgrade it a little bit. I think, was it Rocky 2 or Rocky 3 that was Eye of the Tiger? So
Yes.
we could even do like, a couple different
Like a
iterations.
mashup. I love it. All right, I think we can probably get started now that we have plenty of people here. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our SBAM webinar with 1BoldStep and Jen Jurgens. She's going to be walking us through revenue first marketing, and I will let you all hear from who you came here to hear from. Jen, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much. We are looking forward to everybody's questions and comments and theme song ideas in the chat window at the end. So I hope to leave some time for all the questions. This is a little bit tricky because I can't really see anybody's faces. So please do keep all those thoughts and questions because we'll want to get to them, even if you have to email me afterwards. This is a take on a presentation that I did at the Michigan Celebrates Small Business / SBAM meeting that was earlier this summer in Lansing. And it was pretty well received then, and I'm hoping I can bring the same energy into a webinar that we did in a super fun in-person event. So the idea behind this is pretty much the premise of my growth agency, which is called 1BoldStep. And that is that everything that we can do in a business can be more efficient. But when you really look at where your most inefficiencies lie, uh, a lot of that falls on sales and marketing. And so what we are doing right now is we're looking at sales and marketing as a process. And if it's a process, we can make it more efficient. So this is definitely a lean take. So with that, I'll get started here and try not to duplicate what I'm talking about. Hi, this is me. This is the most awkward part of the webinar where I talk about myself and I'm not really warmed up. I would much rather be in the teaching part of it, but very quickly I wanted to try to prove why I'm qualified to even talk about this stuff. So if you check me out on LinkedIn, and I do post a lot, my career might look a little bit scattered in the things that I have done. Um, from a company perspective or industry perhaps. But within each of those roles, I realized, hindsight's 2020, that everywhere I went, I made things more efficient. And that's kind of my calling. That's where I belong. And so while One Bold Step started out as a marketing agency, became a growth agency, and while most of my career has been with a marketing title, it has always been around making sales and marketing more efficient. Or as some people like to say, I like to take really chaotic things and make order, systematic order. And I have some notes on this because it's the part that's the most awkward. But most recently, before starting One Bold Step, I was at an organization that created custom software for manufacturers and distributors. And I was hired in there as the VP of marketing. And once I got them to understand that that didn't mean I just made logos on golf balls, we actually started working on a strategic growth plan there. We built up the marketing team and working with a guy named Adam Clark. I hired him in. And then after about 6 months, they promoted me to president of the company. Now, in this leadership role, I was able to get even closer to and more involved with the product piece, and especially the sales piece, and to really bring sales and marketing together on a growth plan. The results of that was a 30% year over year increase in revenue. So the creation of that lean growth machine, that was my test case. Things were going really well there until I just had some differences with the founders, and one of them said to me in one meeting, "You want to do things your way? Maybe you should start your own company." And I really took that to heart. And so about 5.5 years ago, I started One Bold Step, and that former head of marketing at the other company, he came over with me, and then about a year and a half later, the former head of sales came over as well. And so we got the band back together again, and the idea was, can we help other businesses grow predictably, right? How much you invest in sales and marketing should result in a predictable amount of growth out the other end of it. So I love to help B2B leaders create these revenue engines and sort of eliminate the marketing chaos. What we're going to do today is really look at where do we start? Where do we start? And I believe we start with revenue. So I'm going to give you our approach that you can then hopefully apply to your sales and marketing processes within your own organization. I also love to tell really bad jokes. And I had promised Angie from One Bold Step that I wasn't going to do that today, but I can't help myself. So this is the one to take home. I would like you all to know that I have been talking extensively with all of my friends about the benefits of eating dried grapes. I can hear your thoughts. Yeah, I do that because it's all about raising awareness. You're welcome. Moving on. Okay, into the content. Here we go. The problem in sales and marketing today is that the end-to-end revenue cycle isn't complete, efficient, or aligned. And when we get called in, it's typically by one of two roles within an organization. It's either the owner of the company or it's the head of marketing. And you can kind of see these questions here, right? The CEO always wants to know, why am I investing so much? And I can't see a direct result or increase in revenue from it. And then the marketing person is always asking, why is it that even though we're doing all these amazing things, my budget is the first one to get cut whenever we're facing unknowns, uncertainty, or potentially a recession? Why can't marketing prove that they are value add and not overhead? And I think there's a number of reasons that I'm going to go into. But my goal here today, right, is to make sure that marketing is seen for what it is, which is a value add to the organization. In my experience, a CEO is more likely to add a salesperson or keep a salesperson in tough times than they are to keep or add to marketing. Why is that? We need the CEO to see the direct benefit of marketing efforts. So how do we do that? Currently, marketing, if this is, if these are the two departments on opposite sides of this cliff, and marketing is being measured on metrics like website traffic or brand recognition, or even generating leads, but sales is being measured on straight up revenue, you have two different scorecards going on here. And if the two aren't brought together, then they're basically operating in silos, and they're both trying to get funds and they're both trying to get attention. And so what needs to happen is the departments need to merge, and everything that either department does needs to be aligned with the best outcome, which is the sale, right? The revenue. Unfortunately, or fortunately, marketing is plagued with so many distractions. And if you follow EOS or if you've read Rocket Fuel and you have a more visionary CEO, your CEO might also be plagued with so many distractions. They saw a video, they read an article, and they just keep coming into the marketing department. Oh, we need to do this. Oh, we need to use AI. Oh, look at what our competitors are doing. And while marketing can say, yeah, I need to focus, I need to focus, all of a sudden it's like squirrel. One of my favorites is, hey, sales are going down, or we seem to be stuck. Let's create a new logo. Okay, no, let's take a look at the end-to-end revenue cycle and see where we're actually struggling before we just start throwing out all of these crazy tactics that we like to refer to as RAM. That would be random acts of marketing. And then there's just something I want you to keep in mind, and I wrote it down. The most expensive marketing is the kind that keeps you busy but doesn't move your revenue needle. Plus, it tends to burn out the marketing team really quickly. I'm not saying that this is going to go away. I'm just saying this needs to be something that you are aware of before you start another tactic. How is it directly related to moving the needle? And this leads to a little bit of lean and lean conversation. I'm not sure I mentioned it or not, but my undergrad is actually in supply chain. And so when I think about all of the things that marketing and sales and customer success could be working on in order to increase revenue, somewhere there's a bottleneck. And I know that's a very manufacturing term, right? But if you looked at it, like if you pretended you were on the shop floor and you needed to get, something from one end to the other, you would find out very quickly which machine wasn't doing its part or where there was a bottleneck. The same thing is true of your marketing people and your salespeople and your customer success people. So rather than trying to fix everything all at once or just doing like this gigantic peanut butter spread across the top, right? Truly identify, is it lead generation? Is that your problem? Is it that once you get leads, the conversion rate isn't high enough? Is it that when you get a customer, you can't retain them? Where is your easiest lever or button to push, pull, whatever, to increase revenue? It might not be what you're thinking, right? It might not be, because everybody thinks, oh, it's leads. But the truth is, if you are spending money to create more leads and you're just pouring those into a leaking bucket, you're not being efficient. And you're not doing the fastest thing that you could. You need to plug those holes first before you go back and start advertising. But this isn't the best image for it. So maybe let's head to, we'll keep with my shop floor analogy. So if we were to talk about lean in manufacturing, right? We want to optimize that physical production process. The whole goal is throughput. You want to eliminate waste in the materials and your inventory. You want to see what is running at optimal speed and what isn't. And you're really measuring your success by how much comes out the other end of the process, right? When you look at lean growth, you have to have that same mindset for your entire revenue cycle. Where are you spending money? Where are you spending time that isn't actually moving the needle? And really, what we're doing at the end of the day, same thing, revenue impact. What directly affects your bottom line? So I might be beating this one to death, but I really just want to make sure that you've got this mindset as we go into this exercise. Um, a very long time ago, um, we did some campaign work. This is at a different job for the American Heart Association. We had so much data. It was absolutely fantastic. And by having all of that data, by understanding if we did, this step, 3 phone calls, 7 emails, um, it resulted in increased donations. If we didn't connect that activity to the donation, we would never know what we needed to do more or less of. So I'll keep hounding this point. Marketers, get used to it, get ready for it, have the conversations about how you are going to impact revenue. Okay, so that was sort of like the background before we get into actually creating a revenue first plan and using the template that we'll be handing out at the end of this as well. So the agenda today, it's a 5-part framework for how you can take lean growth principles and apply it at your own business. So we're going to ditch the RAM, no random acts of marketing, and we're going to narrow things down based on where we have the greatest opportunities. So the first step is going to be getting us used to revenue forecasting, high level from a marketing perspective, a look at what that means to our target audience, what that means to the customer journey or journeys, how we can quickly do some implementation without spending a ton of money on a tech stack. And then the really important part of lean is once you're doing this and you're measuring it and you know your desired outcome, you should be continuously improving it. So the marketing is never done. Never and never. Either are the sales, but I think you get it. So how are we going to do that? My favorite creative tool ever, which is spreadsheet, because everybody gets a spreadsheet. So this is part of what you'll get as a takeaway. So I loved this quote from Stephen Covey. I don't know if you don't know, if you remember the Franklin Planner and all of that work. But to begin with the end in mind, which is revenue, means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means you know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. So we are going to start with these key questions. I know we're about mid-year here, so maybe we even want to start thinking about 2026. So based on where you are going to end 2025 from a revenue perspective, how much growth do you want to see by the end of 2026? And then the second question is, if that is not a gigantic number, if it's a small number, how much do you want to invest in marketing in order to hit that number? Because those two things should be related. Big growth goals should come at a higher cost. And any business owner that pushes back on that, we have to have realistic expectations on both the effort and the cost, and then the outcome. So it's very important that these two things align, and that if you are in marketing, that you ask the question, how much incremental growth do you want to see from investing in this new marketing plan or this growth plan? So with that in mind, I'm going to try to open the spreadsheet. And I hit a bunch of cells here because it's my spreadsheets can be overwhelming. I know that about me. I'm very self-aware on my spreadsheet issue. So very simply, what I would like you to do first is to start out by taking, in this case, it's a 2024, where this made-up company that sells copiers and leases copiers and does some maintenance, where in 2024, they ended the year at about 1.8 million. Their goal in 2025 is 2.3 million. So the first thing that you need to do is to break down your revenue into the buckets or categories that your company uses internally to either incentivize sales, or perhaps it's how it's broken down in the P&L, but you want to align your marketing activities with where you expect the greatest increases. So you can see right here, I've got a pretty good increase in straight up sales and a pretty good increase in leases. Now this will get interesting in a minute here. The other thing that you want to do is to make sure you come up with an average sale. Because why? Because that's going to help us back into how big of an audience we need to target. And that's going to drive the marketing tactics. So without seeing anybody's faces, I hope that this part is pretty clear. When you get this template, just know that any field that is highlighted yellow, if you change it, everything else in the spreadsheet will change as well. Anything that is not highlighted yellow is probably based on a formula. So first things first, revenue by category, average sale. Now, let's stop and think a minute again. I said this earlier, but everyone seems to think that the sales funnel, which normally looks like this, right? That the biggest opportunity is way up at the top, or people are not aware of you. And you have to make them aware. This is our broadest, probably most expensive place for marketing budget, and we can burn it quickly. But what if, and in our case, we have a big goal to increase leases for copiers, but leases are renewable. There's an opportunity further down in the funnel for marketing to make the people who have purchased one time into loyalists and advocates by speaking to them about why they should stay with the company. And that might be a bigger opportunity, or maybe they're taking somebody who used to do a one-time purchase or someone who just has maintenance and gets them to sign up and into a lease. So the point of this bow tie funnel, and this is really where 1BoldStep has been going, is that the funnel doesn't stop with the first purchase. And the current data shows that for every dollar spent over here and the attract side, if you were to take that same dollar and spend it over here within cross-sell and upsell and renewals, there is a 4 to 6x return on that dollar just by talking to the people that you already know. So stop and think a minute about your current database and what you have in there. So if we are to lay this out in our spreadsheet, please hold, we're going to go back to the magical spreadsheet. So now that we know our 2025 revenue goal, we need to apply, we're going to unhide these, the bow tie funnel to the back end of it. So if the total is 100% of the 1.2 million, how much of that is net new? 60% of it needs to be net new. How did we come to that? Well, in this case, there was already $420,000 in the sales pipeline. So call it back order, call it what you will. Sometimes you have money already here if you're tracking your deals, and sometimes you don't. But in the case of copier sales, right, we've got 35% already locked in. Renewal, we don't have any. It's one-time sales. It's a zero. Cross-sell and upsell, do we have an opportunity to go add our maintenance contracts and offer them new equipment? Yeah, probably, but probably not a huge opportunity. Our efforts for copier sales need to be making sure that this pipeline closes. Somewhere in that sales process, what is it that we need to do as marketers, as salespeople, to make sure that the deals aren't all just sitting in proposal sent? And marketing can help out here, by the way, with language, with stories, with case studies, right? Anything that the salespeople need to help push this forward. But really, you can see we need some net new. And so in this case, there is a top of the funnel opportunity here. And that's all the dark orange is. It's where I've identified our biggest opportunity to lean into the growth plan as marketers to help push the revenue buttons. So I did the same thing then here with maintenance. And you can see in this case, we don't really go and sell maintenance to people we don't know. That's just not a focus. Where do we sell maintenance? We sell maintenance to the people that bought copiers. And so 95% of that revenue needs to come from marketing, creating campaigns to people that already bought your equipment. That's not the top of the funnel. That's after the first purchase in the bow tie. And we don't have any maintenance in the pipeline. That's really just a transactional sale that happens as needed. We don't have maintenance contracts, so there are no renewal dollars. And then lastly, if we're looking at an annualized value of a copier lease, you can see here that really we expect to keep 80% of our current clients on that contract. The opposite of this is also known as churn, right? How many clients do you expect to lose? Because when you look at the difference between 800,000 and 1.1 million, it's not the simple 300 if you lose the 800, right? And so you need to be very aware that marketing needs to be speaking into that existing base to make sure that those renewals are in place. This is a great opportunity for automation, by the way. Very little cross-sell, upsell. Maybe you've got a new product coming out or a new add-on. And then there is a small amount of net new that they want to get here. But it really looks like this company's strategy is to do the outright sale and then sell maintenance ongoing. And again, the dark orange, this is our opportunity to make the biggest impact on the bottom line. Anything that is done for getting net new maintenance customers would be a random act of marketing because it is not directly tied to revenue. So that is the next section of making sure we have a revenue first plan. I'm going to pop back over here. I hope there are questions loading up in there. All right, now let's talk about target market. And yeah, it's again, we're going to need to go back to the spreadsheet. I hope everybody here likes my JAWS reference. So more than one of my previous employers had said to me, you see that gas station over there? They could buy our product. You see that mall? They could buy our product. You see that person? They could buy our product. And while that might be true, we can't talk to all of those people. Especially today in the age of AI and generic messaging, we have to authentically solve a problem, a specific problem for a specific person, and show that we understand it. And so the next step in our formula is to make sure that our revenue opportunities, that we truly understand who we are talking to and about what. And I'll show you how we do that over here. I threw this quote in here because I had read this interview that happened between, it was Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and the moderator asked them to both write one word on a piece of paper that was the key to their success. And then he had them flip them over at the same time. and they had both written down the word focus. Focus. So if you are trying to solve something for everyone or sell something to everyone, you're not really solving anything. This is the hardest part sometimes from the marketing perspective, to try to get the sales team to focus, to try to get the C-suite to focus. But it makes sense when you attach it to, or you can make a better argument when you attach it to the specific revenue goals. I'll show you how we do that over here. There is a little bit of, I'm not going to call it an Easter egg, but there's more down in here. I did not really want to go through it too deeply today, but if you unhide all of these rows down here, you'll see some math. If you want to, you can go backwards and figure out how large of an audience you need to target in order to hit your revenue goals. So what I've done here is I've just taken standard conversion rates. You can, again, it's highlighted yellow. You can change it to match your industry or your product. But if I have a goal, a net new goal of 720,000, and my average sale is 7,500, I need to close 96 new deals, new copier sales. If I close at a 35% rate, that means I need 274 quotes sent out. And you can kind of see how I'm working my way up to, I need a database of at least 68,571 people, just based on like an average conversion rate. Now, what does this mean? As a marketer, this means I can justify broader marketing tactics like Google ads maybe, or LinkedIn ads, because I'm targeting a broader audience. As you scroll down, the renewal funnel is in here as well. Now, in order for us to hit our goal for maintenance, according to current conversion rates, I got to target 20,000 customers. Do I have 20,000 customers? And so what could be done here is a readjustment of this goal if we don't have enough people in that database. The other thing to consider is over here in renewal, number of sales needed. Again, this is yours to play with. Going back to the target market. So remember, we have 1, 2, 3 products, right, that we are trying to sell. Coming over to the target market, here they are again. And in this case, what we ended up doing is splitting out copier leases between new and renewal, because we know that selling a new lease is a different audience, and it takes different, there's a different pain and different conversations than to get a renewal on it. And so what I would do with a client is I would ask them to describe for me who is the macro segment. So for copier sales, they might say, we're really good with healthcare or any business with X number of employees, or they might give you a geography where they can target only in the state of Michigan. Okay, but who within those organizations are we selling to? Is it if it's a small business, is it a president or CEO? If it's a gigantic business, is it purchasing? Is it office management? And this is a really important part too. Who are the current best customers that fit? I mean, they're ideal in every way. What are their actual names? We do this for all of the markets. And if you have more than one buyer type, I would copy this whole row and I would do it again for the other type of buyer. So let's say you're like, we're really focused, trying to give a good example here. We're really focused in copier sales, healthcare, but we're also really focused in copier sales to schools. Completely different pains, gains, targets. You have to break this down. And what this sheet allows you to do is to take that ideal client and just kind of fill in what we need in order to speak to them. What's hurting them when they're shopping? Why do they need you? What's their gain? This, again, it might be different based on what you're selling, right? Did something happen? Well, yeah, on the maintenance side, something broke. That's pretty much what happened. Is there anything keeping them from working from you with you? Is it a money situation? Do we need to offer payment terms, for example, to get through this blocker? Are there any external motivators like, hey, it's the end of the year, time to get this in before you run out of budget? And then one of my favorites, do you have any guarantees? Because if you do, that's something we would want to list and use that as our unique value prop to move people forward. So kind of bringing it back together, you've identified where you think revenue comes from. Now you've identified who you're going to sell to. And then this is my favorite question. You could sell to all of these titles and all of these roles. But if I were to give you $100 in advertising budget, how would you split it up? Do we have a higher goal here in the renewals? Yeah, we do. We're going to spend $50 there. Between education and healthcare, man, do we make more margin in one than the other? Oh yeah, education's got a much higher um, profit margin than healthcare does. But I really want to get some healthcare leads. What am I at now? Oh, I'm at 85. I don't really want to put a lot into maintenance from a budget perspective. But you can kind of see where I'm going, right? This is really hard for salespeople, but it also tells you, hey, Mr. CEO, I'm going to ask you for more money for this renewal campaign because my expectation is we're going to get more money from it. And you told me it was really important. You told me it was worth 50% of your budget. It's just a fun exercise to help them help you prioritize your efforts. Coming on back to the presentation. The customer journey. I love the Marketunist. If you haven't seen these, we make it sometimes really hard for people to do work with us. And so when someone has a pain point, we want to make sure that we're not dragging them through this crazy journey where they get to the point where they're like, forget it, I'm just going to wash them by hand. Or in my case, I'm just going to buy paper plates. So how do we make a simple journey that helps somebody go all the way through that bow tie funnel? Well, now that we know where to focus, we can make that path really clear and really simple. And we're basically trying to say they're new, they're current, they're known. How do we walk them through it? And you'll have to make more than one of these based on which audience you're speaking to. So this is another stat that just really struck me. When you're doing just blanket outreach, and you're talking to people about your product or service, 95% of your market, your target market, they're not in the market for what you're selling at the time that you connect with them. They're busy doing other things. 5% of your market is like, oh, magic. How'd you know? Yes, I want to buy that right now. What are you going to do for the 95% that need you, but don't need you right this minute? That's where a really good customer journey comes into play, because you want to make sure the right message at the right place and at the right time is just happening in the background so that when the 95 is ready, you're there. There's a couple of really good books to check into here. An oldie but a goodie is They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, where you are trying to proactively answer their questions, at least 80% of them, with content and messaging. One of our favorite tricks is to go into your repository of web form questions and look at what are people asking over and over and over and over again. Or if you have support tickets, what do they want? What do they want? What do they want? This makes for great FAQ content, but it also makes for wonderful follow-up and I'll say nurturing campaigns. But how do we know what's going to move them to the next step? So yes, I made another tab in the spreadsheet to help us with this. So you've seen the reach and revenue tab. You've seen the target market. We know where we're going. We know who is going to get us there. How are we going to get them across the line? So in this case, you'll see once again, we've taken our different revenue categories. And what do we need to do? TOFU stands for top of the funnel. They don't know you. So the question is, what value can you provide when they're first shopping for a solution? And what content do you have to speak to them when that is where they are at? And so you'll see on each one of these, you'll see content. Do I have it or do I need it? Filling in one of these can create a marketing plan. All of the tactics that you need might come out of these gaps where I've got somebody at the bottom of the funnel, they're just sitting there, they won't purchase it. What do I need to move them forward? Is it a case study of an organization just like them? Is it a guarantee? What is it? And what you can do with this sheet then is to take your different product offerings, you can take your different audiences, and you can work through answering these questions. So here are, I would say, that the funnel stages for a net new customer. This is the value that you're going to offer to get them to move. If they're stuck in the pipeline, what would create urgency? What's going to challenge them to make a change and to choose you and to do something different? If we're looking at customer upsell, are they even aware that you offer maintenance? If they are and they're interested, how do they compare you to other maintenance offerings? And right here, can you provide proof that you're really good at it? This is a great opportunity for testimonials. And then in this case, there is no renewal, right? This is a straight up sale. But down here, when you're 90 days out from renewal, or maybe earlier, is it time to send a survey? Have they had a good or bad customer experience? What do we need to make sure that we are not going to lose this customer, that marketing can provide into the conversation before they're even really thinking about the renewal? So again, this is yours to use, and there is a little bit of an instruction up here. But then also, when you download it from the site, you'll get an email, and it's got me just quickly walking through this again so you can remember what you need to do if you don't want to watch this whole presentation. So popping back over here, implementation. This is where the spreadsheet just isn't going to cut it anymore. So the spreadsheet is really something that you can use to get your build your case and get all of your pieces together in the same place. I know not everybody loves the spreadsheets like I do. You really are going to need to look at technology, and I hope that all of you are doing this. But regardless of how big or small your organization is, there are solutions out there to help. You don't have to invest in, Salesforce anymore in order to have a simple CRM. So what I would recommend is that you take a look at from marketing, sales, and customer success. This is like your ticketing or your account management. Do you have the ability to do some or all of these things? Can you do at least automated drip emails within your marketing system? Constant Contact can do that for $100 a month. There's things, right? There's things out there. Don't think that it is too hard. Same thing with CRM. The HubSpot, customer platform starts at $15 a month. And the same thing even with the ticketing system. Try to get your systems talking to each other so that you've got that full picture. But I can't afford it. How much incremental growth did you expect from this plan in the first place? Did your CEO say, we're going to grow by $500,000 next year? Here's 10 grand to go figure it out. We have to have realistic expectations, right? And if you invest in some of the technology, you don't have to have the additional headcount. So there's a trade-off here. How much are you willing to invest to get the results out the back end? And if that doesn't land, go back, look at what you spent last year. Did you go to a bunch of events where there were no leads generated or no follow-up on the leads, or you didn't have a CRM and you didn't know what happened to the leads? How much did you spend on that event? How much did you spend on golf balls and swag? There was no tracking to that. You're asking for money so that you can prove that what you're doing is working and moving the needle. So it's a bit of a dance, and I hope that this helps because you really can't afford right now to not invest in some of this technology. When you get the email from me following this and it's got the video of me walking through, just know that I am not personally sending that to you. It sounds like I am, but I'm not. It's automatically going out as it should. Anything that needs to happen over and over again should be automated. The last part of a lean growth cycle is this concept of continuous improvement. Lord Kelvin was quoted as saying, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And my favorite, Peter Drucker, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So this is another case for why we want to have some sort of systems approach to tracking what worked and what didn't. If we don't have the end result of revenue, it doesn't matter how many website visits you got. Everybody comes to a website, they had the wrong idea of why they were going there, they drop off, they never turn into a sale. Marketing, that is not a good metric. If you can create a system that goes end to end, and at the end of the year, revenue is increasing, and we can take a look back across the cycle, what combination of things worked and which ones didn't, we can continue to improve those things. And don't forget, once you fix one thing, so let's say you have created this amazing webinar and you get all of these leads now. And then, oh no, you have one person doing demos. Guess what? You just created a new bottleneck. And so when I say the marketing and sales is never done, it's because it's a continuous improvement process. And when you pull one lever, you will change something somewhere else in the flow that is now going to need your attention. So you are going to continually move through the end-to-end revenue cycle, finding and fixing and overcoming the next bottleneck that's keeping your throughput revenue from increasing as fast and as efficiently as possible. These are just some examples of those bottlenecks that you can be on the lookout for. It isn't, I mean, one of the ones I have found a lot on the sales side is that it takes a long time maybe to get a quote out. Do we need to standardize and automate the quotes? Probably. Or perhaps it's a manual renewal process where really all you needed was an e-signature and you're off and running. So these are just some things in the presentation for you to look at and kind of be aware of as you start to increase activities and leads through the system where things might start to fall apart. Another one of my favorite sayings. So a former CEO used to walk into my office when I was VP of marketing, and he would say, "Is the marketing on?" And I would say, "Yes, the marketing is on." But the marketing, it shouldn't be a switch. It's not on or off. When we know our target audience and we know who they are and we know which products we're selling and how we're selling them, and we have this machine in place, if something happens, let's say you're selling custom development and two of your lead developers quit or go on sick leave. Oh no, what are we going to do? Well, if we have a machine in place, we just turn that dial down. Okay, slow down the leads for custom dev, and maybe we need to turn up the leads for, the standard software offering where we don't need those custom devs. You are only capable of responding to the uncertainty in the market if you've got the machine and the data in place to do it. And so I like to say, let's think of marketing as a dial, right? That we can turn up and we can turn down. We want more leads, dial it up. We need to take a little break because sales is overwhelmed. We dial it down. But please don't just turn it off. Because what's going to happen is that all of a sudden, a big customer leaves. Or something disrupts in the economy, and the CEO is going to walk back in and be like, "Turn the marketing on," and you're going to go, "Turn, I can't. Nothing's in place." Please, please think of marketing as a dial and not a switch. So, wrapping it up, I left about 10 minutes for questions. I got a little wordy there. I hope that was helpful. It's really weird. I feel like I'm just talking to myself. So let's do this. Start with your revenue goals, identify your bottlenecks, target, map that journey, and then measure and improve continuously. Here's the QR code. If you want to get a copy of, you can download the presentation. I know that SBAM is going to be sending it out as well, which will make it easy. I'll go to the landing page. And then another thing, I would love it if you would follow me on social. I am constantly learning, and reading, and sharing those things via LinkedIn because I'm obsessed with efficiency and with proving that marketing is a value add and not overhead. So with that, I will turn it back over to Olivia and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. It looks like we do have one right now from Rebecca in the beginning of the presentation asked, what are your thoughts on nonprofit sponsorships as marketing? Studies show that every $1 of sponsorship dollars brings in $3 to $8 of free advertising. It sounds like a strong use of marketing budget.
Yeah, so I actually, in my career, I spent 4 years as the executive director of Susan G. Komen of Michigan. So thank you for sponsoring nonprofits. I love that as well, but I have a tendency to move those dollars into a community outreach budget because I can't tie them directly to revenue increase. Unless, and here's my only way, if people are going to the event that you sponsored and you're getting prospect names and you're entering them in your CRM and you're creating a lead source of nonprofit sponsorship, would you actually be able to do any kind of attribution around that source? That's not to say I don't do them. I just carve them out into a separate budget. And one of the fun things that we've done here is we also engage the team from a culture perspective because nonprofit sponsorships do wonderful things for your internal culture as well, because we like to work with people who care about the same things that we care about. So there are a lot of good things about nonprofit sponsorships. Think that covers it?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
pretty good. In the chat, we have another one. How do you leverage referral growth from a marketing standpoint?
Referrals. So in our case, we track referrals as a separate lead source. We use HubSpot as our CRM. And so referrals are tracked as the primary lead source. And then the lead source description is typically, the person's name or the partner name. How do we leverage it? We are right now in the middle of automating our process as well. So we're a HubSpot partner, and there is an automated request for reviews that goes out after we do onboardings of HubSpot, so that we then get that 5-star, review and testimonial. When we get those, we then also know that those are the people who would probably likely refer us to others. And so when we look at the combination of really good reviews, people's names, and then a simple request, hey, if we did great work for you, are there any friends that you would refer us to or introduce us to? Now, the tool we use in that case is either a template email that is sent out directly from the CEO, and I'll say sent out. It's sent out under their name, or we use a tool called Sequences inside of HubSpot where it looks like it came out from, say it came out from me, but it would be triggered upon the 5-star review over on the HubSpot side. And so I would say referrals are probably our strongest lead source, and that we don't we don't ask for them enough. So I did see our plan for the next 18 months, and automating that process is in that plan. So
Awesome. Well, I think that is everything from everyone today. Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be sending out the recording and slides along with the landing page to download your spreadsheet after this is all. Oh, we have another question. Do
okay.
you have any recommendations for seasonal businesses?
In terms of, yeah, I guess in terms of that marketing plan,
Prom specifically, like a custom prom business.
I would look toward fractional support. Um, agency support, that's a great opportunity for contract. I'm kind of trying to look it up right now as well. Because either um, what we like to do here is create a 12-month plan right out of the gate. And then what that would do in terms of seasonal business would be like, okay, we know Q1, we have to do these things, Q2, these things, Q3, Q4. Oh my gosh, this is the crazy time. Here's where one of our tactics is going to be bring in that temporary support and help so that we hit it hard in these months, but we're not carrying that weight the whole year through. Um, I do have a favorite tool that is just, it's a little bit related, but not really. Go check out Spark Toro, SPARKTORO. It's a part of the what I'll call creepy marketing set of technology, where you can identify obscure places that your target audience might be hanging out. And so in terms of a seasonal business, it would be really interesting to find those groups and just sort of listen in and find out when they're planning on purchasing, what goes into that decision, and really crafting that plan around what the audience is talking about or doing. So I'm not a great direct to consumer marketer, so we might have to bring in some others on that for specific tactics.
Right, and we have one last question in the chat. What is the best way to get in front of businesses as a very small business owner? I specialize in holistic wellness and try to gain contracts for staff to gain access to our services.
The best way, there are all the ways. There are so many ways. I think that it comes down to narrow your scope. If you are trying to get in front of all kinds of businesses, you're just going to burn yourself out. So I would narrow that scope, relate it specifically to how much you want to grow, and create that mini plan within that tiny vertical. Because if let's say you pick professional services businesses that are 20 to 30 employees that live within a 60-mile radius, you've got a small group. Now you can get really targeted in the information that you are giving them. And the only way that you are going to stand out is to be incredibly authentic, know that you're local, know that you're there, and be in their inbox consistently. And as a small business, you can't do that to hundreds of thousands of people. Choose wisely, choose based off your best customers, ask them what they love about you, and do that over and over again. Focus, focus.
All right. I think that is all today. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you again, Jen, for your insight. We will be following up over email with some slides and a recording, and we hope to see you all at one of our next webinars coming up. You can check those out on our website. We'll see you all soon. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
everybody.